So folks are still piling in, so we're going to banter for the next minute or so. But I appreciate everybody coming to the event. For those who are longtime Riveter members, welcome back. For those who are at their first Riveter event, I want to welcome you. So Riveter is all about turning life without work into a positive and productive experience. So we talk a lot about the job search, certainly, and interesting industries, which is what today is going to be all about, but also about how you can prepare yourself to make sure whatever happens in your future is a really positive, awesome place. And that's why we prioritize things like education and conversations around how can you do career pivots, what classes you need to take in order to move your career forward into an exciting way, what kind of wellness resources might be available for you to spend your time in a way that makes you really positive, happy that you're going through this. So I want to welcome everybody. I would love for y'all to post two things in the chat room. The first is your LinkedIn profile. This is an amazing opportunity for folks to connect with each other. The network is what's going to carry your career forward, whether you're looking for work starting today or you're just kind of thinking about new events. So drop your LinkedIn into the chat. You don't have to connect with each other right now. After the event, I will send out everybody's LinkedIn to each other so you can all connect after that. But drop your LinkedIn. The second thing, I would love to learn everyone's relationship to customer success. I know there's some folks who are specifically looking for roles in the industry. I know there's some folks who are customer success curious, just want to know what it's all about, what the work is like, how to get into the industry if you wanted to. So let me know in the chat kind of where you stand with customer success, what roles you're looking for, and that would be really, really helpful. So looks like we got a full audience here. So we're going to get going. Would love to introduce our two speakers today. And I'm going to start by letting them introduce themselves. There's folks I've known for a while, two brilliant, wonderful people in customer success. So let's start with Nalya. Nalya, tell us who you are, what you do, and why we brought you in to talk about customer success.
So many big questions, Adriel. I don't know if I'm going to be able to answer all of those. Hi, everyone. I'm Nalya. I lead a customer success team for a company that's focused on security, performance, and reliability. I am specifically focused on the strategic segment at this point in time in the customer success space, but I've essentially been in customer-facing roles, managing teams for the last 15 years, and really tried particularly to diversify what my exposure has been. So everything from implementation to managing support teams to actually doing a lot more of the customer success and long-term account management, both for small companies, large companies. I'm happy to speak to that today and answer questions. I love customer success. I love different skill sets that can be brought in and really help augment the industry. So would love to hear more about all of you and talk to you about my experience.
Awesome. So we're going to talk a lot about some of the big words you used, Nalya, and all the things that it is that a customer success manager does. It sounds like it sounds like you don't even need anyone else in the company except for one customer success manager, and it'll run well. But we're gonna figure out if that's true or not. Todd, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Sure. My name's Todd Eby, and I'm one of the founders of SuccessHACKER. We're a company that's been focused on customer success education, particularly towards the angle of job creation and employment opportunity rationalization, if you will. So basically making a customer success career available to any who want to pursue it, And we've been doing that now for nearly 7 years, and it's been really fun and interesting adventure. It's been a great way to apply I think I'm coming up on almost 30 years in the customer facing space. So all the lessons that we've learned from the various companies, myself and my co-founder, Andrew Marks. And it's been really rewarding the last couple of years that we've seen the customer success industry really grow and get substantial traction based on how sort of the cloud and subscription-based economies are growing.
Awesome. So folks, how we're going to run today's event is I'll run a bit of a Q&A. It'll take 40 minutes, but I beg and encourage everyone to drop questions in the chat. Let's make this as interactive as possible. I'm reading the chat. Thank you everyone for sharing kind of what it is you're looking for. If you have questions throughout the event, drop them in there. The last 20 minutes, we're going to do a networking opportunity in breakout rooms. So we'll divide up, you'll all meet each other, you'll all share kind of what it is you're interested in and about customer success and what it is you're looking for. So I want to start by framing the customer success industry. Todd, let's start with you. When you and I spoke last time, you gave me a bit of a background as to the origin story of customer success. Why don't you share that background? And then Nalya, I'm going to come to you after that and ask you for what a day-to-day is in your life, because you're an active customer success manager.
Sure. So customer success has really been around for ages, but under a variety of names and different disciplines. And so it was really, sort of the origin that we tell, and some debate it, but it really kind of came to the fore when Salesforce realized that they had a growing churn problem and they needed to fix that if they were to become what they are now. Obviously, spoiler alert, they did fix that problem that they had, but what it did was really sort of encapsulate the different functions and activities under a single name referred to as customer success. Fast forward now, and we're seeing it grow. Particularly the origin with regards to Salesforce was around subscription-based businesses. But what we're seeing over the last few years is a trend that is taking root, that everyone who is really in a recurring revenue business or wants to have recurring revenue based on repeat customer engagements is embracing the tenets of customer success. And so, when I say the tenets, what do I mean? Well, back in the day, folks were involved in the various aspects of what we now consider customer success, but they were doing it either as a program manager or a project manager, an account manager. They were a consultant. They were doing professional services. The list kind of goes on and on and on. Obviously, there was also then aspects of support that were brought in. You had your technical account managers, your architects, everything that went into basically getting a customer from the point of sale to where they were fully using the product and then supporting them on their journey was really involved in the process. And so what kind of happened with the Salesforce event was that they started to push to encapsulate it all underneath this umbrella term of customer success. And fast forward to where we're at today. And now, there's debate whether is it really a department? Is it a mindset? Is it an approach to how you do business? I think all of the answers, yes, but it's practiced differently at different companies, but it does share a lot of the same core elements regardless of where you go.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Even looking at the audience here, I see folks who have been in technology product management, employee engagement, alumni engagement, account management, communications account management. So all these different fields really came together. So Nalya, put that into practice, right? Todd was talking about the origin story of this field that came together 7-10 years ago or so. You now work in this field, and I know you started a new job in this field maybe 2 or 3 months ago. What is your day-to-day maxim? What are you working on? What are you making happen as a customer success manager?
You're asking me a question that I'm nervous to answer because I see that people who have worked on my teams and alongside me before are on the call. So I'm worried that if I say something, they're going to hold me accountable to it. So I'll answer this is what generally customer success managers are focused on. Today, the team that I lead is really specifically focused on strategic customer success. And so it's important to differentiate that customer success can look different depending on the segment or the types of customers that you're really focused on. I actually see that a good number of people are not in the customer success space today. And what I would argue, Todd, I'm open to debating this, so you tell me what you think, but I would actually argue that all of you are involved in customer success in some way, shape, or form. So fundamentally, what you are trying to do when you are trying to further customer success is you are trying to ensure that the customer is leveraging your product, whatever it is that you are selling, so that they can see value from it. So whether you are in the service industry or you are in alumni recruiting or any other thing, when you're focused on customer success, is you're essentially trying to ensure that they receive a return on their investment with whatever it is that you're engaged in. So at its core, that's what everyone is doing on a day-to-day basis. What that practically translates to can be everything from making sure that you're connecting with your customers and letting them know about the latest product updates, to having conversations with them about how their business is evolving, to tracking the news to understand what events have occurred that could actually be impacting them today, to working internally with teams to help advocate and raise your customers' voices. So advocating on their behalf and ensuring that people actually have access to information that you're hearing by engaging with your customers on a regular basis. But again, all of these activities look a little different depending on the size of your customer, depending on how many customers you're working with, but also I think they also vary depending on what you are ultimately trying to drive at that stage, with the expectation being that at the end of the day, you're trying to make sure that your customers are using your products, are going to continue to use your products, and ideally grow with their usage and see a return on their investment.
Tim, that's a great question. And I'm going to get to that because I want to talk about career paths in a minute. So guys, if you have questions, drop them in there. Tim, thank you for that. I want to ask Nalya, you talked about, I mean, both of you talked about there's all these different facets, right? You could be doing research and preparing marketing materials to share with your customers what they should know that they might not know yet. You could be coming with their problems to your engineering teams and almost being a product manager kind of role. If I'm getting into the customer success role, is there a particular skill set that I need to really, really work on? You know, do I need to be a better writer, a better marketer, a better communicator with engineers, a better cross-disciplinary manager? Or do you think that I might be placed into work that matches my skill set? So I'll come work for Nalya and she'll say, oh, you're a great writer and marketer. Why don't you run sort of our news and information team? How do different skill sets get placed within the customer success role?
Who do you want to handle that one?
Let's start with Nalya, and then I want Todd's thoughts on that too.
All right, the fast pitches are coming my way. I got it. I would say there is a fairly defined skill set. I think you asked two specific questions. One is, what is the skill set? And two is, can I come in with a third of that and then kind of focus based on that? For the first part, I would say, you know, I'm actually currently working on the development plan and professional growth opportunities for folks on my team. And I'd say it boils down to a handful of characteristics. It's hard to list them here, but among those, communication is really key. Is how do you communicate? Can you communicate effectively with urgency, and really drive people to decision making? Having the ability to engage cross-functional stakeholders. I think there's pieces around understanding the business need of your customer. So why is your customer even buying this product from you? At the same time, understanding the value proposition of your product. And so you really need to become a product expert. Obviously, some of these things you're not going to have exposure to the product necessarily before you enter in. And so the question of can I come with a fraction of this and kind of expect that my manager will help me move into it? I'm a huge believer that you are cultivating this skill set, and the beauty of customer success is that likely the breadth of your experience to date in your professional career has actually primed you very nicely to be able to take on a customer success role. But it is up to you as a candidate to be able to understand your experience and frame it in a way that helps me as a hiring manager understand how your experience actually translates to what I'm trying to accomplish. The caveat that I would say is, you know, if I'm asking you to come in and manage $1 million customer, I'm less likely to take a chance on somebody who has not at all done the customer success role. So I think, you know, be cautious around what you're looking to jump into. But I do think that it is possible to come in and to say, here's my skill set. I wouldn't say here, I really love marketing, so like, let's do marketing customer success management. But what I might say is, you know, I've actually worked in the service industry for 20 years and I've managed private parties and I've had to manage inbound inquiries and I've had to engage effectively with a variety of stakeholders. Here's how that would make me an excellent customer success manager. Tell me that story, paint that journey for me, and I'm willing to partner with you to help you really understand how that translates effectively to a customer success role. One other thing that I would say is there's tons of opportunities. Todd's company is a phenomenal example of a resource that's available to you to help demonstrate consistent engagement and education around it. So it's one thing to say I'm interested, it's another to say, and I've taken these steps to show that despite me not having the practical hands-on experience, I have the exposure to be able to come in and hit the ground running in a variety of different ways in the role. So hopefully that answers your question. But Todd, I am curious on your perspective.
You set me up beautifully. Good points, really good points. And so, okay, I'm going to try and not wax on about this, because unfortunately we spend way too much time on this subject. So on the subject of skills, we did a lot of research, like many, many, many years of research on this topic. And we were trying to really distill it down to the core skills. And the unfortunate thing is that because customer success is practiced differently at different companies and differently with different products, and then within the different segments, as Nalya pointed out, the skill set is really broad. Okay, now that sounds like a real bummer, right? Like, but the upside here is that you have more skills than you really appreciate that you have. So one of the things that I did, I published a competency for customer success like 2 years ago, and we continue to work on it. It was the product of, I would say about, I hate to put it like a number on it, but it's about 15 years worth of work that was spurred on by the fact that I really hate doing employee evaluations for my teams. And I really hated the fact that most of the companies that I worked at gave me no measuring stick. They didn't give me anything to work with. They just gave me this piece of software that said, okay, go and evaluate your team so that you can then determine who you're going to give a raise to, a promotion to, who you're going to get rid of. I mean, you know, it's a fairly, it's probably one of the processes that any manager likes the least, is like going through and trying to evaluate your team. There's really no love for it when there's no yardstick either. Now, sometimes it's a great process. Like when you're looking at how can I grow my team, that's like the positive aspect to it. But it's still really difficult if you can't look at it from some sort of, here's a model and here's where my people are at, where are the gaps? And so to close that, my co-founder actually forced me to publish this piece of work that I've been working on just for myself, so that I had this and I carried it with me through, I don't know, at least 6 or 7 different roles. And so what we ended up doing is polishing this up and then putting it in front of a behavioral psychologist, a couple of leads for L&D, as well as a few other folks in the L&D space that were specialists at building these types of competency models. And what we encapsulated was 5 different disciplines in about 18 different skills that are associated with that. And I hesitate to call them skills because some of them are fairly big elements. There's a lot of skills that go into something like business acumen. But when you talk about really understanding the business that your customer is in, you know, you can't go down to this, you know, super granular level in a model. So we have to have a way of encapsulating it. And so we published a model, and it's something that we used during the development of our training as well, because one of the things that we all recognize is nobody wants to sit through, and I shouldn't say nobody, very few people want to sit through a soft skills training course. You really don't want to sit through and learn how to be more emotionally intelligent. That's probably not something that most people want to sign up for, and begrudgingly they will do it. So what we were trying to do with the model was really capture the things that we needed to teach, and then figure out a way of teaching them in an engaging manner, almost in a stealth manner, if you will, so that you didn't really know you were learning it until you were like, oh, wow, like I do know how to do active listening because it was part of the consultative method course. So back to the point, when we talk about the skills, we encapsulated them in this model, and we found that it was really broadly applicable. We haven't run into very many situations where it doesn't fit. It's something that I'm working on right now with my colleagues at the University of San Francisco to prove out as a model for companies that we can use to then do further research on. So, we feel it's a really solid representation of the skills that you have to have at a macro level. I would say that it's kind of like a layer cake, though, right? So like this is the top layer. And then as you kind of go down a level, it's dependent on where you work. So for instance, if you are in enterprise data security, you're going to need different skills, direct skills, tech skills, hard skills, if you will, to be really successful at your job than you will need if you're working, for instance, at a textbook company. Now, the same behaviors and the same sort of approaches probably will work in both instances. As Nalya pointed out, you're really looking to help your customers to derive value. It's the path to how they derive that value and the skills that are then going to need to be called on during that you would employ. But in terms of the skills, we feel like we've got those pretty well nailed down, and it's a very robust, it's like a 60-page document. I'll give.
We'll post a link. Yeah, we'll share that exact document. So that actually answered Sarah's question about soft skills, and basically the answer. Todd, when you and I spoke last time, you were like, if you've ever worked with a customer, if you've ever solved somebody's problem, if you've ever listened to somebody, distilled what they were saying and acted upon it, the soft skills are there. Now I want to talk about, I think it was Todd's question about experience. So Tim, sorry. So Tim asked, do you have any advice? And this is going to go to you, Todd. Do you have any, I'm going to blend two questions. Tim said, do you have any advice about how to gain SaaS tech experience to land a position as a CSM? And then Michael, somewhere down here, said, what degrees or certifications would you suggest for customer success roles? So I'll listen, distill, and repeat and say, how do people get the experience needed to come with confidence into a customer success interview?
Well, so I'm going to go back to something that she's on this side of me, that Nalya said, and that's you have more experience than you know, and it's about how you frame that experience and how you make it relatable to the hiring manager. In Tim's case, hey, Tim, it's finally good to put a face to a name. We've been corresponding. So, but in terms of like SaaS, that's where it gets to be a little bit more challenging. It really depends on the hiring manager. So a lot of what we see with SaaS positions that require SaaS experience is that's a really tough hump to overcome. If you don't have SaaS experience and the hiring manager is really looking for SaaS experience, you can't really kind of get around that, unfortunately. What you can do to sort of add that into your bag of tricks or your experience, if you will, is to look for internship opportunities or to particularly go after the type of company that you want to work at and ask them if they would be willing to take on you as an unpaid intern. So you've got to kind of think outside the box if you're going to pursue that sort of a role and you have your sights set on SaaS. I've coached so many people around this topic, and that's kind of like the chief piece of advice I give them. But the other piece that I give them, that not to be Debbie Downer again, but think about your goals and break them down more. You're probably not going to go and be successful at landing a SaaS job with no SaaS experience. So typically, if you break that up, hiring managers are looking for two things. They're looking for experience as a customer success manager and then experience with a SaaS product. And so if you don't have both, go for the easier one. Get your first SaaS role, spend your time in grade, get the experience, and then it's much easier to tell a story about how you focused on retention and how the company you worked at was really interested in recurring revenue. And while it wasn't a SaaS model, it adhered to those core tenets. And so you have the experience just without the title. That one typically works really, really well. And it's kind of part of the coaching that I give. It's like, you're not going to get your dream job right out of the gate unless you're super duper lucky. So take it in steps. You're going to have to put in your time, but you're going to get experience that's going to enable you to get a better job. And so it's worth the investment.
Yeah, I'm actually going to give. I'm going to give. I'm going to give Tim the floor. Tim, where are you? Tim, why don't you respond to that? You mentioned that you've got a thought on that.
Todd, thank you. Finally, nice to meet you. And Adriel, thank you for letting me chime in. So great advice. I appreciate that. My goal is to land a CSM role in that SaaS space. My counter to a hiring manager, and I think this is working a little bit, is in my role as an event manager, I've used software platforms like Cvent and Social Tables. So I'm actually the end user, and I've onboarded my clients who have no experience with that product. Also tools that I've had in my company, I've onboarded internal partners on my team. So I counter that as, hey, while you may not see that I have not worked with a SaaS company, I've used many user intuitive platforms, and I feel I'm a great fit for it. So I just wanted to kind of share that as a stepping stone for me as I try to land my next position in the SaaS community.
I love that, Tim. The one you were sort of alluding to what I would add which is something that I've looked for historically for certain types of roles is domain expertise. And that is another lever that you have to pull. So let's say today you are in the healthcare space and you're looking to transition into a CSM role. Your healthcare exposure is actually incredibly competitive. And lean in on that and highlight that. I would focus then on healthcare tech companies and use that as a foot in the door to be able to open those doors for yourself. So if you're focused on event management today in your career, what I would say is target specifically event management companies and use that as a way to open the door, which I don't think it fully negates the need to be able to speak effectively and eloquently around meeting the needs that the hiring manager is putting a job out there for. So be really familiar with what the job demands and be able to explain how your experience to date does meet those particular criteria, and or if not, how you feel like you could get there. But I think that's a great strategy too, which is lean in on what you do know. And again, I love that Todd is kind of emphasizing that you have more experience than you know, because I think that that's very true. I oftentimes can speak to a candidate or someone for 20, 30 minutes, and they're not selling the thing that I think that they should be selling. So make sure that you're selling yourself because you do have so many experiences that I think are incredibly marketable that you may not be giving yourself credit for.
Can I piggyback?
Nalya,
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Todd. Yeah, so just to add in, I'll make this brief, but my experience with success coaching, at first I was hesitant because I didn't know if I was qualified to take it. It took me about 2.5 weeks. It was great. I found a lot of relevant skills that I've had in event management over my years with my previous company. And so all the courses that I went through, I just kept on, it was just a flick of a switch. It's like, okay, I do that every day. I do this every day. And so that's why I'm pursuing this, because I think the skill set is highly transferable, probably more than a lot of us here that are pivoting from other industries. If you manage clients, accounts, budgets, you've onboarded in some way and you're providing objectives and positive outcomes for customers. So just keep it up and we're all in this together.
Tim's got a really good point, and it's one that I can't stress enough. I mean, I wrote nearly a 200-page book about how to do this, and so it's one of the key things that we talk about is what Nalya talked about, which is domain expertise, and it ties into you have more experience than you think about. But sort of the core thing that we really try and drive into your thinking about getting a job is target what you know, target the companies. You might want to work at Slack. That's awesome. Like right now, I wish I worked at Slack. It's a potentially really great payday, but like your first job out of your pivot, it's probably not going to be the Slack. But look at what you have been doing. Look at the experience that you have. And Tim, it's like the event space and the fact that you used all those pieces of software, that's the domain expertise that you can leverage, particularly if you're talking like a C-event. It's like, look, I've been on the flip side of this. I can tell you where your onboarding failed. I can tell you how challenging it is to onboard customers of your customers to use your product. I can help you navigate that minefield and be successful. And right there, that experience, that expertise is priceless. I mean, I took one quick story. I took my former FP&A, head of FP&A from a company that I worked at, who wanted to get out of finance and get into customer success. And I got him a job within a couple of weeks working as a lead CSM because of the experience he had with the product, used it for years, sat down in front of him. They didn't want to talk to him. And this was a retained search. So, it's a little bit different than what you guys are going through. But he sat down and said, look, I've been in this business for 20 years and I've used your product for the last 5. Here's X, Y, and Z things that I like about it, and 1, 2, 3 that I don't. Here's the challenges. And he was able to put it in a way that they could understand, but were lacking within their own team. And they hired him on the spot. Good news is, if you can leverage that domain expertise, it also makes it much easier for you to climb up the career ladder when you're within that company, because you have experience that other CSMs don't. And he went within a year from basically being a CSM to leading the team. And so, he's an extreme success story, but I want to put that out there as something for folks, that, because often folks say like domain expertise, like, well, it's not going to really matter. I mean, I just want to get the job here and do this. It's like, no. Like, really ride on that domain expertise, because it's going to give you that edge and it's going to make you so much more effective too. It's not just about getting the job, right? It's about getting in there and being super effective, because CSM roles are typically not where you stop in terms of your career. Now, you may go into CS management, but a lot of folks use it as a launch pad to get into other areas of the company. So, you have to be thinking about the career progression as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop there because I can go on for far too long about it.
You're very passionate, Todd. You're very passionate. So I want to give the next question to Sarah. She posted in the chat, but it was a great question. Sarah, the mic is yours.
Thanks. I was curious what got both of you into customer success, what excites you about it, but also what are the things that you find are challenging, or what are the different kinds of stories about customer challenges that you maybe had to work through? It might have excited you, but it was the kind of typical, this was a problem, but here's how we met that success.
I want to start with Nalya.
Happy to take that. Yeah. So I wouldn't say I found customer success. I would say it found me. And so I truthfully didn't start off knowing that I was doing customer success. I started off as a front end developer, designing interfaces at a firm that essentially created quizzes for medical offices. This was way back in the day when you would go into your doctor's office and you could sit, and on a Pentium 1, you could take a quiz that you could then use to tell your healthcare provider about how you were doing. From there, I actually went in, I got a job at the Department of Public Health in San Francisco, where I live today. And I started managing the first program that we had for public testing across the city and county of San Francisco. And my job was to take Palm Pilots. Please raise your hand if you remember what a Palm Pilot was. Thank you so much. I felt super cool. So I took Palm Pilots basically, and I went around to community organizations and taught them how to use Palm Pilots to collect information on publicly funded testing. and developed that system both internally from a data management perspective, but also externally. I went to these sites, I trained them how to use it. I trained them about the public health questions that the devices were asking, and then collected that data and somehow figured out how to send it to the Center for Disease Control. And I did that for a number of years. Little did I know that what I was doing was actually called implementation. And so when I simultaneously, while I was doing that, I decided I wanted to go to law school and to become an attorney. And so I've done that for the last 6-7 years, but that's never been a career aspiration for me. What I realized is I love connecting people to technology. And when you ask me what excites me about customer success, it's the impact that you can have on communities by really leveraging technology to have a meaningful contribution. The company that I work for today, our mission is to build a better internet. And I absolutely love that is what we are focused on a day-to-day basis. And to me, there's so much power in really having people leverage a technology you really believe in. So I took that experience and went out and tried to find my first official tech job, because working for the government is a little different. So I was definitely doing tech work, but I was not in a tech company, and I wanted to try to find that. And truthfully, I took a 50% pay cut and got a job at a 4-person startup because they were the only the only people that would take my call and hire me. And it was one of the best experiences. 2 years later, I had almost tripled what I was making. And it was really because I started by just being curious and learning and doing everything. I did everything from hiring developers to managing sprint cycles, to answering customer support questions, to building out implementation processes, and really leaned into my domain expertise, because the next job I got was actually working at a healthcare company and building out their implementation process. And from there, I got another job and kind of progressed my career that way. So for me, it's really how do you actually take what you know, how do you really work with a customer to help them achieve something that's bigger than the two of you, and really what your product is there to drive. You asked also about challenges. And I really struggle when people ask me questions about challenges, because I am very proudly an unreasonable optimist. And what I would actually say is I actually love the opportunity to tackle challenges, because if you're doing a great job as a customer success manager, challenges actually become kind of a mission for you and the customer, because you are an extension of their team. And so it's this opportunity for you to go above and beyond and really dig in and drive something that is going to be meaningful and impactful for them. So I would say, there's a variety of different kinds of challenges that you will see. But if you find digging in where there's no clear solution in place in a field that is still consistently evolving, what a customer success manager looks like today will not be the same in 2 years and will not be the same in 5 years. And so if you love change and you love chaos and you love being given problems with potential solutions that you're not quite sure about, no matter how mature the company is, this is an incredibly exciting space to be in. It's like puzzle making and problem solving at its core. And to me, that's incredibly inspiring and energizing. But I could talk about this for much, much longer. I'm going to pass it to Todd. Ooh, you're on mute.
It's kind of funny how many folks respond with, "I didn't find customer success, it found me." And I think that for a lot of the folks that have been doing something customer success related for years, it was really more of that finding yourself one day doing customer success and realizing that the day was no different than last week or the week before. It just had a new name on it. And so, a lot of folks that have been doing implementation and project management and account management, all sort of, you've been doing customer success. You're in it, and it's oftentimes just not titled appropriately. So, my journey to where I'm at now is long and tortured. Involves a lot of different steps that I won't roll everybody through, but ultimately, it began with doing the implementation and the consulting and the architecture for complex systems, and then realizing that on the back end of that, people had to actually put in place the things that I designed, and I had to make sure that the design that I had created achieved what I thought it would. You're kind of like an architect, right? Here's what I want to do with the house. Now, what does it really look like after the general contractors got done with my plans? And so that kind of propelled me to get deeper and deeper and deeper into what I was looking at. And pretty soon, you start to really look at everything you're doing is a program. And so from start to finish, if you want to achieve the outcomes that the customer has laid out for you, you kind of have to look in QA all along the path. And so for me, my evolution to where I am now was just based on kind of getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into the practice. And I hear that a lot from folks that have come in from sort of the enterprise, the complex offering space. It's kind of interesting. You'll find that you land in the role either by design or simply by happenstance. But it definitely is very rewarding. And I would say, like Nalya, I was kind of the kid that had to take apart the TV before I would watch it. And so I wanted to understand how everything works. So if that's the kind of mindset you have, if you're very, very curious, if you really want to help the customer achieve their goals, and that's like sort of at the core of who you are, it's very much a mission-driven role. You have to really embrace and want to do it, because the flip side of it is, there's a lot of volatility, there's a lot of uncertainty, chaos, as Nalya mentioned. You're the one that has to chart the course through it. And so, it's a very attractive career, but you really should go into it knowing like you have to have this desire to navigate all those minefields and to make the customers happy and successful. And sometimes, it's not always fun, but it's generally always rewarding.
Folks, so here's what's going to happen next. If you haven't put your LinkedIn into the chat yet, drop it in, and I'll make sure everybody can get connected after the event. Super important, because whether you are looking to stay in customer success or not, it's the network that's going to get you there. I got one final question. This one's for Todd, and then we're going to break up into small networking groups until 2 o'clock Pacific, and I'll make sure everyone's out of here at 2 o'clock. Todd, my question for you is this. So Success Coaching runs a number of classes for people, and beginning with people who are trying to break in to their first role in customer success. For those who are new Riveter members or not, you'll actually find an amazingly generous discount offered to Riveter members by Success Coaching. So you should come to the Riveter portal, to the education section if you're considering a course, and check that out. Todd, tell folks, what are they going to get if they take your class? What's the value to taking a Success Coaching class if they're looking to get into the industry?
It's a great question. So what we aimed to do when we created our courses was to basically achieve two things. One, make sure that folks that didn't have any experience as a customer success manager that they were aware of became aware of all of the experiences that they had. So Tim pointed out, as you're going through the courses, you're seeing like, oh wait, I do this clicks, like I've done this before. So a lot of what we did, it was kind of layered, right? Like, we'll present you with the fundamentals, with the mindset, with the right language. Will help you to understand the core concepts and make sure that you are entering into the role as well armed as you can be for the first, and I'm going to talk to level 1, for the first 6 months of your career. So you understand the core things that you need to do. Now, if you already are in the role, the next layer deep of stuff becomes really apparent, because you're kind of looking at it going, oh, like I already do this. But it's interesting because you're pointing out like these 6 things are core to it, and I was only doing 3, and here's how I can do them better. And so, kind of what we aimed to do was to try and offer something to everybody, regardless of where they were at in their career. And so our courses, you could take them once, you could get the certification, and a lot of folks think that that's the end. What we really basically coach folks to do is take the course, just talk about level 1, take level 1, take away from it what you can. and then come back to it in 6 months and take them again, because there's a whole nother narrative that you're going to start to see within them that's going to help you to grow. And so, like, when you come to our course, yes, you get a certification. Yes, it's going to help you to alleviate some of the concerns that a hiring manager might have about you not having a role in customer success. Yes, it's going to basically show you the core things that you need to do. And it's also going to help you to understand how you can place yourself in the frame of that role based on things you've already done in the past. And then again, yes, it's going to teach you new practices that probably when you're talking with the hiring manager, they're not using. And you'll be able to field their questions and then try and do what I like to do in interviews, which is flip the script. And let's really talk, because let's face it, the more somebody talks about themselves or their stuff, the more they're going to like you. So we want to get you so that you're not the one that's kind of sitting through the inquisition. So you're having a conversation and you're able to have a back and forth that's intelligent. And they're basically at the end of it going to come away and go, wow, like, they know their stuff. Like, this person would be a great add to the team, or, at the very least, they have all the core things that we need from somebody. We're going to have to teach them this, but I think, we could really do well with this person on our team. And so a lot of what we're seeking to achieve is to impart knowledge, but also get you ready for that career, or get you ready to take your career to the next level. And that's easy for somebody to say, particularly like when you're doing the marketing aspects of it. But we've done this for years now, and we've been very successful at getting folks the jobs that they want, the promotions that they're looking for. And we do it not because, it's something that we make millions of dollars doing. I mean, I wish my company was that large, but we do it because we know that the better we arm the next generation of customer success managers, the better the industry is going to be. And so, we're looking at the long haul and trying to sort of lift everyone up so that as we continue to grow as an industry, there's more and more opportunity for everyone.
All right. So folks, you're going to get links to everything that we talked about here about an hour or two after the event, including the courses, including the soft skills that we talked about, including everybody's LinkedIn. Let's give a round of applause to Todd and Nalya. Thank you so much for joining us. A nice muted round of applause the Riveter way. And thank you to you all for joining. So folks, we got about 11 minutes left. I'm about to open up 3 breakout rooms. Todd will be in one, Nalya in another, and me in the third, and then everyone else distributed evenly. What I want you to do is, in that networking room, we're just going to go around and talk quickly about ourselves in that 10 minutes that we have, so that you can follow up later with the people that seem most relevant. If you are looking for a customer success role, take 30 seconds and say, hi, my name is whatever, and I think I'd be great for the customer success position because of X. Make that your 25, 30-second intro, and then go around. If you're not looking for a customer success role and you were just looking to learn, meet new people, hear a little more about the industry, go in and say, hey, my name is Adriel and I'm looking for a role in Y. Just share what you're looking for, because there are going to be people there who can help you. So I opened up the rooms. You can join. I'll pull everyone out at 2 o'clock Pacific sharp, and I'll see you all soon.